Are there foods that actually do boost our metabolism? What is going on, everybody? Are there foods that actually do boost our metabolism? That's a really popular article that you'll see posted online or on content that's on Facebook or whatever. You know, if you see something from a fitness source, whether it be a person, a blogger, or a publication, you know, the top metabolism boosting foods is a pretty popular one to put out there. It gets a lot of attention, it gets a lot of clicks, so that's why. But you know, it's a good question to take a look at. You know, how could we boost our metabolism, both through food and exercise, and you know, the whole works. Like, what do we do to get our metabolism boosted, quote unquote? So before I get into that, you know, what are the benefits of that? Let's talk about why we want to boost our metabolism. Essentially, you can look at your metabolism as the rate that your body, the rate at which your body burns calories. People with a fast metabolism burn more calories every minute of every day. It just expedites the process of fat loss. The faster your metabolism is going, the faster you're going to metabolize food and use it as fuel. The faster that food is going to be metabolized into muscle tissue, the faster that fat is going to get mobilized and metabolized into energy and used to do workouts, all that stuff. First thing that you'd want to do, or I think one of the most important things that you can do to speed up your metabolism, or to speed up your metabolic rate, is to add, or I should say, is to improve your muscle to fat ratio. So that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, add a bunch of muscle or get really big. Like, you know, you don't need to turn into Arnold for this. But if you look at the ratio of muscle to fat on your body, the more you can improve that, the better. Basically, the more muscle tissue you have, the more calories it takes just to kind of sit there and hang out, because muscle tissue needs energy to sustain itself. Whereas fat is just kind of dead weight. It just sits there. You don't need extra calories to maintain body fat. It's just you know, stored energy that's used for later. So you can either improve that ratio by adding more muscle, or you can improve that ratio by bringing your body fat down, or you can do both. But in any case, the better the fat, the better the muscle to body fat ratio is, the better or the quicker your metabolism is going to be. So specifically improving the body fat to muscle ratio, that kind of leads you to the question of what workouts are best for doing that. I love high intensity interval cardio. Sprints, for example, on a treadmill, sprints on the stairs, running hills, you know, anything like that, where you're putting in these short, uber intense bursts of effort, followed up by short rest periods. It's quick, it's intense, and the difference between doing that and longer duration steady state cardio is that it takes strength to propel your body forward, to climb up the stairs quickly, to run up the hill, to sprint. It requires strength. So that triggers your body to develop muscle. Even if you aren't lifting weights, it requires muscle tissue to do that. So your body is going to develop muscle, and if nothing else, it's going to keep the muscle if you're in a pretty steep caloric deficit. So it's a fantastic way to work out, burn calories, and encourage lean muscle tissue at the same time. It's incredibly effective and efficient. Another factor that we need to take into consideration is insulin. If we want to improve our metabolic rate, then we need to take a look at insulin. Now, first off, what is insulin? We've all heard about it, obviously. Insulin you could look at as something that your body produces to shuttle nutrients. So when nutrients show up in your blood, specifically carbohydrates, your body produces insulin. And you can look at those as kind of like the usher at a theater. They take you to your seat, basically. They tell the nutrients where to go, because the insulin is going to determine whether your carbohydrates that you eat end up in your fat or in your muscles, which is where we want them. Carbohydrates that go into your muscle get used for energy in your workouts, and then obviously the carbohydrates that end up being stored in fat become fat. So we don't want that. So the high level goal with insulin is that we want to keep the insulin production in our body functioning effectively. There's a problem that arises if you're eating too many carbohydrates. Now, carbs are not bad, but if you're eating large amounts of carbohydrates, like way more than you need, and or you're eating the wrong types of carbohydrates, i.e. very fast digesting simple carbohydrates, the types you're going to see, sugar basically, if you're drinking pop, if you're eating processed carbohydrates that don't have any fiber in there, candy, cakes, cookies, sweets, things like that. Those types of carbohydrates and just overall large quantities of even the good ones, if you're eating tons of carbs, that's going to negatively impact over time your insulin response. What happens is you become desensitized to insulin, and that leads to issues. So in order to maintain this insulin functioning in our body, we want to make sure that the carbohydrate intake is appropriate for our goals, and that the carbohydrate intake is coming from good sources for the most part. Not to say you can never have a cookie, but let's not go on nightly cookie binges. So too many carbohydrates and or the wrong kinds of carbohydrates in large amounts can lead to insulin insensitivity. In order to keep our insulin functioning effectively and in order to maintain insulin sensitivity, which is what we want, we can try to reduce, not necessarily eliminate, but reduce the bad sugary carbohydrates from our diets. And also make sure that the total amount of carbohydrates we're getting in a day are appropriate for our goals. Proper sleep does play into it too. This is a minor one, but it's still something we should think about. It's a good general health topic to keep in the back of your mind as well. 7 to 9 hours a night, doing that and just kind of letting your body reset on a daily basis is going to help improve your insulin sensitivity. Another thing that does help, and some people respond great to, other people not so much. I personally don't follow it just because it doesn't fit my lifestyle, my personality, but is intermittent fasting. That's basically, in a nutshell, where you limit the time that you eat in a day to a shorter window. So you don't necessarily eat from when you wake up to when you go to bed. A really common approach that people use for this is they get up and they start eating around lunch, or around 11 or 12 in the afternoon, and then they stop by about 8 o'clock. And that's assuming they're going to bed around 10 or 11 and getting up at like 7 or 8 or something. So that's another thing that you can do to help improve insulin sensitivity. What it does is it basically just lets your body reset on a regular basis. If you are constantly flooded with carbohydrates, that can lead to insensitivity. Now that doesn't mean that if you're eating from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed, that's going to cause a problem. But if you are very focused on increasing your insulin sensitivity and or you are insulin insensitive right now, intermittent fasting might be something we should talk about. Another thing that can help boost up that metabolism is digestive enzymes and probiotics. What those do is they help process food through the digestive system. If you don't have the good bacteria in your gut, then you're not going to break down your food effectively, and that's going to slow down the whole process. Things aren't going to get absorbed quite as well. So this actually is a pretty common issue. People don't realize that they may have some issues in the gut. They may not have all the best bacteria down there, and things might not be getting broken down and absorbed efficiently. If you're someone who's recently done a stint of antibiotics for one reason or another, you should definitely look into getting a probiotic, and at least using it for a short term for a few weeks just to get that bacteria back up and running, because those kill the bad stuff and the good stuff. And also people who have had a history of eating just junky food, junky processed food, that can have a negative impact on the gut flora, the good stuff. So introducing probiotics and or digestives can definitely benefit your metabolism, and they could speed it up. And finally, the last thing you can do, which is probably the more directly related to the initial question, which was, what foods can we eat to boost our metabolism, and are there foods that boost our metabolism? The answer to that question is yeah, there are foods that can have a positive metabolic effect on your body and can increase the metabolic rate more or less. And really what we're looking at there is the thermogenic effect of foods. Certain foods require more energy to process them and break them down than other foods. Specifically lean protein sources. Those are a great way to increase thermogenesis, basically make your body work to break them down. And that leads into some of the freebie foods that you've noticed. We're talking about, if you've read through your programs, greens. Even though we do count them in your programs, we apply some caloric value to them. They're kind of a loose one where you can really be pretty liberal with the greens. And what I'm saying when I say greens is leafy fibrous vegetables. Broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, what else? Bell peppers, onions, mushrooms. Those things, they take about as much energy to break down as they do as they contain. So a lot of times people will just call them a freebie, a 0-calorie food, because the energy that they bring into the body is exactly how much energy it takes the body to break them down. So eating things like that makes your body do work, and that extra work speeds up the metabolism. So those are the foods I would suggest if you're interested in increasing your metabolic rate through food. Don't expect anything major when you start eating vegetables. You know, it's not gonna, I don't think you're gonna notice anything in the mirror. It's kind of one of those things where you'd incorporate it and then just kind of go on faith that it's doing its thing. It's not gonna be a night and day difference by any means. Something that you do want to keep in mind too is that there's caffeine. That one boosts metabolism at least 15%, sometimes 20 to 30%, depending on the individual and how sensitive they are to it. But caffeine boosts your metabolism. It does it by way of a drug. You know, obviously caffeine's a drug, so it's not the au natural way to do it. But if you want to get the benefit of caffeine and still stay, you know, clean and green and all that good stuff, green tea's a great way to do it. It's a natural diuretic as well, which helps your body release and keep from retaining water. But green tea is a great way to get the caffeine and the metabolic effects without getting too jittery or jacked up on energy drinks. Black coffee would be the next one. You know, you can add some pretty low calorie additives in there to get the flavor if you're a big latte drinker. Otherwise, espresso, you know, that's a good one too. Not a whole lot of calories there, definitely stronger. But I would say green tea is probably the granddaddy as far as getting your caffeine in a healthy way, appreciating the metabolic benefits, and still having a major focus on general health. So I hope that helps you guys a little bit. If that helps clarify the question, you know, what can you do to boost your metabolism? Because it's definitely a hot topic. You're going to see a ton of content, a lot of posts geared around your metabolism and how to boost it. And a lot of stuff that's out there is pretty fluffed up. They like to sensationalize certain topics, and that's really, you know, just to get clicks, just to get traffic to websites. A lot of publishers for this type of stuff really over-exaggerate how amazing some of the stuff is. And that's just the way it is. So I'm just gonna give it to you straight and say that stuff that we went through has an effect, but don't expect anything that's going to be night and day. I'd say the most dramatic factors you're going to notice are going to be coming from the HIIT training, the caffeine, and the probiotics. I think those are going to give you the most bang for your buck as far as if you're looking for a noticeable increase in your metabolism. You know, the green fibers, vegetables, and the protein, yeah, they help, but you're not going to look in the mirror and see a difference, and you're probably not going to really feel a big difference either. So hopefully that helps. If you guys had any other questions from this video, if you heard about anything that I mentioned that caught your attention, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.